Good morning. As you know, I'm Claudine. I'm the second child and the eldest daughter. No, I'm not the favorite, but I'm the one he often misses and he looks forward to seeing because I live in Bacolod. So that's good enough for me. Okay. First of all, thank you for being here and for being with us the past week. You've heard so many stories about Dad by now, what the kind of man that he was. So I'd like to begin by circling back to the events that led us all here, especially for those who were very surprised by Dad's sudden passing. I'd really like to be able to read this all throughout, so please bear with me in case I falter along the way. It was in May last year when life with my dad, as we knew it, shifted. What we thought was a simple procedure to remove a nasal polyp led to a diagnosis that would shape the course of the last 8 months. There were victories and defeats, sad and happy tears as we all fought with him to beat his cancer. But in the end, there was only so much we could do. The kind of cancer Dad had was so rare and so fierce. Not even his positive mindset. The last time he was with the oncologist, he told him, I'm giving myself 5 years. Not even that kind of willpower could change the course of his disease. His last 3 weeks was tough on us all, especially Dad. He was just supposed to be confined overnight for his usual blood transfusion. But his condition just spiraled when we found ourselves watching him slowly slip away. He started to get very weak. He stopped eating altogether. Dad could hardly speak because he was made to wear an oxygen mask. But when he would wave off the nurses due to the painful blood extractions, or get mad at us and give us the side eye for forcing him to eat, we considered them good signs that he was improving. It was classic Dad to be masungit, so we took that as a win. But then days turned to weeks in the hospital, and we were all getting restless. We just wanted to take him home, and he wanted that too so badly. But we were helpless against the infections that kept coming. On Monday, Jan 14, I lobbied with the doctors to sign off on sending my dad home. And they all agreed that if all went well, my dad could come home that Wednesday. So I shared the good news to my family, and we started to prepare his room at home downstairs. But a chest x-ray the next day showed that his lungs had again accumulated fluid, this time both lungs. That night, I was on duty to stay with Dad overnight. He was restless in his sleep the whole night. He would subconsciously remove his oxygen mask, and I would hurry to put it back on. It was like that the rest of the night, so I decided to stay awake, sitting beside him and holding his hand to prevent him from taking his mask off. I didn't get to sleep that night, and when I left the next morning, Wednesday, I was just so tired that I quickly said goodbye and headed home to rest. That afternoon, he underwent a procedure to remove the fluid from his lungs. He was placed on sedation, but after the procedure during dialysis, he never woke up. He appeared to be sleeping, but he was having a hard time breathing. Our family was always against intubation and resuscitation. And when they told us that intubation was the next step, we told them no. At that point, we didn't want my dad to endure any more suffering. Even when he wanted to fight, we knew his body was failing him. And we knew this was not the kind of life he would have chosen to keep living. At around 9 p.m., it was my turn to be with Dad again. For the next 2 hours, I was alone with him. He appeared to be just sleeping, but breathing very heavily. So as I stood by his bedside watching him and willing him to wake up, I decided to tell him that I loved him, something I've never told him verbally before, and thanked him for everything, hoping that he would hear me in his sleep. In the early morning of January 16, at 1:30 a.m., Dad peacefully passed away. My nephew Matt, who was on duty with him that night, called us to say that Dad was gone. None of us expected it to be that soon. So we all rushed to the hospital to be with him one last time in that room where we cried for his loss, for the memories of a life he so well lived, for the love we all shared for him, for the heartache of watching him, a strong and active man, slowly fading away the past 8 months, for the rare moment that we saw him tear up when he knew we had lost the battle, for the days and years ahead that we would no longer be spending with him, for the sadness that we were all sure would linger every time we would see his Lexus parked in the garage, the one he proudly won when he made a hole-in-one in golf, or slot machines that he loved to play in Soler, or his favorite vest that he often wore, peanuts and chocolates that he loved to snack on while watching TV, his favorite shirts, favorite shoes, his golf set, music from the Apo Hiking Society and ABBA, which he often played in his car, videos of the course in concert, which he would watch over and over again during the pandemic because he loved them, and the many photos I took with him during our family trips and gatherings. But in the midst of this sadness, I will find comfort in my fondest memories of him, when I felt how much he really loved me. Like when one day he flew to Iloilo for the day to line up and secure my HSBC airline tickets because the lines in Manila were too long. Or when he surprised me by sending his car that I love to drive to Bacolod to give to me. Or when he would go out of his way to do things for me, for Gary, our kids, and even my friends. Dad was a man of few words, but his actions spoke volumes. He may not have been the most affectionate, but his language of love was to oblige us, to be of service, to give as much as he could to see us happy. I remember when we were kids, he drove us to Disneyland when he was sick, and he nursed his fever in the car in the parking lot, while the rest of us spent the day in the theme park. That was the kind of man he was, selfless and generous. Life may have taken my dad too soon, but he had lived a full one for 78 years. 54 years as a great husband, dad, and family man. So today I can only hope to honor him by paying forward the good he has done, not just for his family, but for all the people he had touched. Thank you, Dad, for everything and for fighting to stay alive. I hope that in these last months, you felt how much we all loved you and wanted you to still be here with us. I was grateful to have been there to take care of you and keep you company during your hospital visits, tests, and treatments, and especially during your final weeks at the hospital, making sure you were comfortable and never alone. Sometimes I wonder if we had done enough, if we could have done more to prolong your life, if we did it right. But at the end of the day, I rest in knowing that wherever you are now, you're no longer weak or in pain, and you're eating all your favorite food that you never got to enjoy in your final months. And that you're reunited with Lolo, Lola, and your siblings who left you too soon. When I'm back in Bacolod, I know it will be easier imagining you're just in Manila, at the golf course, in Soler, in the TV room, or dining with Mom during your daily dates. But on days when reality hits me, that you're no longer with us, I pray for strength to accept it and to go on. Dad, rest easy now. And I promise, along with Tonette and the rest of the family, to take care of Mom the way you did and make sure she's never lonely. On behalf of Gary, the kids, and I, thank you, Dad. We love you and we will miss you very much. Please watch over all of us as we navigate a new and very difficult normal without your physical presence. I know family dinners and trips will never be the same, and there will be many more tears shed every time we think of you. But we will keep moving forward to celebrate your life and legacy as living proof of the incredible man, husband, dad, grandfather, sibling, uncle, and friend you were. I love you, Dad. You will live in my heart forever.